Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Storytellers. I'm Andrew Triner.
I'm Annie Roshak.
I'm Alex Porter.
I'm Kyle Shreve.
And I'm Amelia Zerby.
Storytellers is the newest show created by NCTV. Episodes focus on different people, perspectives, and stories to explore a central theme.
Today's show is special because it is a tribute to the men and women who protect our country. There are over 22.5 million veterans in the United States. Some have served in times of peril, other times of peace. Some chose to join while others were drafted.
Today, we bring attention to some of the stories of these men and women. We also highlight organizations and people who are doing their part to support those who served.
World War II ended 70 years ago. Many who served are no longer with us, and their stories are dying with them. That's why this next piece is so important. Hoover's own theater tech teacher, Bruce Nist's 90-year-old grandfather, Paul Samblonay, served as a radio operator and pilot in World War II. Jamie Landers, Catherine Poe, Zach Morelli, and I were able to meet this World War II veteran and hear his story firsthand.
This is what most of us think of when our history teachers start talking about World War II. The battles seem trivial and like they happened a long time ago. But for those who fought, the battles were anything but trivial, and the events seemed to happen just yesterday. That is the case for local veteran Paul Samblonay. Samblonay had a love for airplanes from an early age.
I either wanted to be a cowboy or a pilot. It's just one of those things that you got when you was young and lived up to it. Just interested in it.
Then, at age 19, he was drafted into the war. Like many other young men his age, Samblonay answered the call.
At that time, he was ready to go. Everybody was going. When, like you're 18, and if everybody's gone in, you figure out you'd enlist anyway if you didn't draft you.
Inspired by his interest in airplanes, he enrolled in the Air Corps and was fortunate enough to get a position as a radio operator.
And they lined you up, they asked you what you wanted to get into, and of course I wanted to get into the Air. And then it was the Air Corps, not the Air Force. It was the Army, taking your basic training down in St. Petersburg, Florida. Yeah, after that was done, the guy that was giving the schools out, he called my name out, and he says, yeah, you're from Louisville. How's Minerva and Louisville doing football? And they were rivals then. And he talked a little bit and he says, okay, what school do you want to go to? No, I don't know what I want. I said, I wanted to be a pilot, but he says, well, I said, what's the best deal? And I told you, he says, I can send you to radio school and make you a PFC, private, PFC first class on the way.
During the war effort, being separated from family and friends was one of the hardest parts.
That's the rough part, because you might have had a girlfriend or your boyfriend, and of course, you go over there, things change, you lose them, and that's the way it goes then.
But all of the people in this footage are real people with real stories who had families who may have died fighting. That's what we should be thinking about when our teachers start talking about World War II. We should be thinking about men like Paul Samblonay.
$16 million Americans served in World War II, according to the National World War II Museum. Today, there were fewer than 900,000 living veterans of World War II.
When people think of veterans, most think of those who served on the front lines. But not everyone in the military served during a time of war. That is the case for our next veteran. Terry Woods joined the Army after college, reaching the rank of second lieutenant by the age of 26. He completed his tour right before the Vietnam War started and was abroad during JFK's assassination. Haley Fatzinger, Evan Frederick, Nick Sturr, and I took a look into his story.
Ask most Americans and they would tell you that serving in the military is not part of their future plans. Today, only 8% of the U.S. population joins the military. In local veteran Terry Wood's time, this was inconceivable.
Times, military service was compulsory. Everybody expected to go.
He joined the Army and was stationed in Fort Bragg.
I think it was 6 weeks. And the certificate I got said, you graduated from ROTC summer camp. It was not a summer camp. So I was in ordnance, which was, if we had to fight, things were in real bad shape because we were in the rear lines. We were repairing vehicles. I could build you a complete vehicle when I finally got on my active duty. I had a cannibalization point, which was a junkyard. I could build you a vehicle from the ground up.
Woods served from 1962 to 64, which was a time of peace for the nation. His tour took him throughout the country and throughout Europe. He eventually ended up in France.
But we got on a train and we started south, and there were maybe 12, 15 of us. And each station, a couple guys got off. And then I noticed I was all by myself. I was going all the way down to Bordeaux, which is the furthest station. And then somebody picked me up in a Jeep, drove me 35 Ks north, and I went to Lens de Bouzac, France.
His time was cut short, though, because months after arriving, JFK was assassinated.
It was a very dramatic thing. There was a reserve officer dinner or meeting up in Bacone. So we were sitting around, it was many people, a big officers club up there at Bacone. And some people had been served, some people had not. I got served, and then somebody who we didn't like real well came in from the bar and says, "If you just heard, the president's been shot in the head." And we all said, that was a pretty dumb thing to say. He said, no, come on in the bar and listen. So we all moved in the bar, our table, and we heard the president had been shot in Texas. And then we all went back to our table. Our speaker was some sort of attaché diplomat in Bordeaux. And he said, I've got to go back to Bordeaux, and he left. And the dinner just stopped. When someone told me then that the president had died, quite frankly, I felt like somebody told me my dad had died. It was that personal.
As soldiers mourned, so did France. Wood found himself inadvertently representing the country as he accepted the condolence of one particular French man.
But then 3 days later, the American students at Bordeaux, there was an American college down there, they decided to put a wreath in honor of Kennedy on the tomb of the French unknown soldier. So I was elected, or I don't know why. I was folding up the flag, and a little Frenchman about 5 foot tall with a traditional beret and a blue smock and a cigarette dangling from his face came up to me and took my hand in both hands, tears streaming down his face, told me how sorry he was that my president was Lamort, dead. And so for that one brief moment, I was representing the United States of America, and I've never forgotten that moment.
Once he returned home, he went to Fort Knox, where he was asked to serve in Vietnam but declined. To this day, Veterans Day has a special place in his heart.
I'm very proud of being a veteran. As I say, I went in primarily because I had to. That's one of the high points of my life. I'm very proud to be a veteran.
Just like Terry Woods and all the other veterans, people throughout the community will continue to be thankful for the past, present, and future men and women in service.
Many families experience the difficulties of trying to pair military life and civilian life. The Van Nattas are one perfect example. This family of 7 has the same everyday struggles of a normal family, but yet they're much different. For them, the struggle is harder because both parents are currently reservists in the Air Force. Alyssa Miller, Maggie Warren, Jordan Davis, Jasmine Utsi, and I looked into what makes the Van Nattas a little extraordinary.
The day ends like any other for the Van Nattas. The kids go over their day with their parents as the events for tomorrow are discussed. What makes this picture a little different is that there are times when both mom and dad are doing this from different bases throughout the country. That's because both Chris and Colleen Van Natta are reservists in the Air Force. Son and freshman Cole recalls one of these trips.
I don't think they've ever gotten deployed, but I remember my mom had to go for 2 weeks, I think, to Michigan, and I wasn't scared more than sad because I was younger, and it was just, my mom hasn't been away for that long, so I guess you could call it scared, but mostly sad.
Since both parents are now in the reserves, their job requirements have changed.
I am the support for my commander, and we have 5 groups on base, so I am the deputy commander. So I've done everything from disciplinary action to writing Pentagon level award nomination packages.
Both Chris and Colleen have a long connection to the military.
I'd always, as a kid, been attracted to the military. I thought it was, I guess for lack of a better word, cool. So I thought it would be very interesting to try this concept of being a JAG.
I went to Kent State, and I was homesick, and my dad had been in the Air Force. and I was walking across campus and I saw some familiar looking uniforms. And I thought, well, that's weird, and walked me to the table. And I signed up and I never looked back.
This idea of service is being passed down to the rest of the family as well. 10-year-old Cam and 11-year-old Cade both think the military may be in their future.
I would like to, like what they do, going over on weekends, because I would like to be something else when I grow up.
Yes, hearing my dad was in the Air Force and then switching to reserves and taking a different job.
Sophomore Corey does not think she will end up in the military, but wants to help others.
I want to be a doctor when I grow up, and I love the military. I love hearing about my mom's experiences in the military, going over to Romania, all those different countries. I find it so cool, and I would love to be able to travel.
Being in the military has shaped the family, with many of their mottos coming from what the parents learned through their training.
I attribute all of my success in the Air Force to my willingness to always say yes.
The children not only try to live by this motto, but are also incredibly proud of their parents.
I love knowing that they're so passionate about their country, and I feel very patriotic about it as well, and it makes me happy that they're willing to devote themselves so much to a cause like that.
Mr. Vanetta has advice not only for his children, but for others who want to join the military as well.
Be open to new experiences, because when you go into the military, and I can speak for the Air Force certainly, you will have some experiences unlike those you've ever had.
It is clear this family of 7 will be taking an extra moment on Veterans Day to celebrate each other.
Unfortunately, for some veterans, a more difficult fight occurs when they return home. Finding jobs, getting care, or even finding a nice place to live are some of the problems veterans can face. Nationally, the Department of Veteran Affairs has been struggling to handle a backlog of cases, which prompted the question, how are things going locally? Anthony Massa, Ethan Andaloro, Nick Camel, and I looked at some of the services the VSC provides for our local veterans.
The Federal Veterans Administration has made headlines for their struggle to provide this care, but here in Stark County, the locally operated Veteran Service Commission, or VSC, works each day to provide the care that local veterans need. Located on the 4th floor of the Stark County office building in downtown Canton, the VSC performs various services for its clients. These services include financial assistance, help in dealing with the Veterans Administration, and transportation to local veterans hospitals. Charles Zollicoffer is an Afghanistan veteran. Missing one of his legs, Zollicoffer has one of the most fascinating stories of the staff at the VSC.
I stayed over for Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield. They continued through. I spent my time there. I came out for a while, and decided that I wanted to go back into the service. This time I decided to enroll into the Army, so I enlisted into the Army, and I volunteered for Afghanistan. Did my training for Afghanistan, went through my MOB sites, and on my way for my deployment, I was hit by a drunk driver. 4 months in a coma, woke up and I was missing a leg and my arm was shredded.
As he began to rebuild his life, Zollicoffer was impressed by the services provided by the VSC, services that Director Gary Ickes works to provide.
All veterans are, of course, encouraged to contact our office when they get out of the service, especially if they have any disabilities or any problems from when they were in the service. Also, when they're coming home, they don't have a job yet, so maybe they have some financial problems. We can help with financial relief. They can walk out of here with a voucher in their hand, and we're very proud of that fact that they can come in one day and walk out with a voucher to their hand.
At the chapel in North Canton, volunteers are doing just that, as they provide basic clothing necessities to local veterans, a service not provided by the governmental organizations.
We're just meeting a need. Obviously, these are people that are homeless. They don't have a place to sleep. It provides them a place to shower. We provide them meals, clothes, other types of assistance they may need, medical assistance. And so there's a lot of different ways that we provide for these group of men.
The Veteran Service Commission and organizations like the Chapel are working to provide the best services for veterans. So, as veterans care around the country may be on the decline, here in Stark County, the story isn't quite the same.
As veterans, we're asked to do a lot for the country. Regular civilians don't realize how much we're asked to do. And just to know that there's an entity outside of here once we finish serving that actually looks out for us and has our best interest at heart, it gives you a sense of pride and accomplishment to know that I did all this for my country, and there is someone out here and there is something out here to help me after my time is done.
For more information about the local VSC, check out starkcountyohio.gov/veterans.
People have different ways of showing their appreciation for the military. For our final piece, we take a look at how one local man has made it his personal hobby to do just that in a very unique way. Hoover's tennis coach, Ryan Schaefer, is known for his tennis prowess, but only close friends and family know about Schaefer's other life passion, commemorating veterans through collecting artifacts. Tyler Rath, Ben Langford, Nate Murphy, and I got an exclusive look inside Schaefer's personal museum that you'll have to see to believe.
Hoover tennis coach Ryan Schaefer is a well-known Viking. Schaefer, who has coached multiple state championship berths and is a retired history teacher, has a side most people don't know about: the Schaefer Museum. Housed in the basement of Schaefer's home, this collection is one of the largely private-owned museums in the United States. From the American Revolution through the Vietnam War, his collection represents moments on and off the battlefield.
As a historian and someone who has such a high regard for people who have served in the United States military, that it's my duty to pass on their legacy and try to keep a feeling of patriotism alive.
The collection has been an ongoing endeavor for Schaefer. He can still recall how he received his very first piece.
When I was 8 years old, the collection actually started when my grandmother took me to her attic and gave me my grandfather and my namesake's World War I footlocker filled with innumerable treasures. That was, I think, what really piqued my interest in collecting.
Each piece has a rich history, and Schaefer knows the story behind each one.
I think the thing that means most to me is the case filled with my father's items from World War II in Korea.
Some may wonder what would prompt someone to devote his entire basement to old uniforms or equipment. For Schaefer, it was a way to pay homage to his family.
I grew up like any normal kid. My heroes were people like Mickey Mantle, baseball players, football players. Through this, and also through my love of history, I kind of came to the conclusion that the real heroes in my life weren't politicians or athletes, but my dad, my grandfather, my neighbors.
With over 400 artifacts in his collection, Schaefer does not plan on wrapping up his collecting habit anytime soon. Not everyone can make their own museum, nor does Schaefer think we should, but he does think more needs to be done to honor veterans.
Well, I think it's like anything else. Hopefully, you young people will develop a passion for something in your lives. Mine, of course, is preserving the history of people who fought for this country, and of course, coaching.
For most of us, the military is an abstract idea, and being at war is the norm considering the war in Afghanistan started in 2001. But deciding to fight for our country involves bravery and sacrifice. We hope today that you got a better idea of why Veterans Day is so important, and take a moment to thank a veteran. That wraps up this episode of Storytellers. Please join us for our next episode due out this winter. I'm Andrew Schreiner, and from all of us at NCTV, thank you for watching.